and I don't mean that like in a hippie kind of way, but it's just, you know, as an artist, as an actor, you know, you fill yourself up with new things.
Of course.
And like museums or art or culture or people, and people always fascinate me.
Yeah.
Because that's my job, you know, as an actor, to portray a character, and really that's just words on a page. So if I find something interesting about people, I kind of like store it.
Yeah.
And you might see yourself on screen, you know.
No,
I might do something. You're like, wait, that's weird. I do that too. And it's like, yeah, because I probably got it from you. You know.
Yeah, it's true. People watching is a great source of inspiration.
Yeah.
Even just like little idiosyncrasies that you could pick up, and then you can add them to a specific character that you're playing.
Yeah.
It definitely helps. I love doing that. Just going and watching people going to the mall.
Yeah. And you know, when I was in high school, and I knew at that time that I wanted to be an actor. I was kind of like in the closet about it because I didn't talk about it at all. Because everyone, I'd be like, hey, what do you think about like acting or wanting to be an actor? And people were like, dude, like, no, you'll never make it. Or, like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I used to like just privately watch movies, and I remember watching an interview with Benicio del Toro, and he was talking about Usual Suspects, which is one of my favorite movies, and you should absolutely watch this movie if you haven't seen it. But he talks about how there's a scene where he's being interrogated, and he does this thing with chapstick. Like, he puts it on. And I always thought that was like a weird choice. Like, how do you think about like having chapstick in your pocket, you know? And he said that he was out somewhere and he noticed this guy who, as someone was talking to him, he's listening, he pulls out his chapstick and he just, you know, puts it on and puts it back in his pocket. He's like, that's interesting. And so he uses that. And I was like, that's cool, because it makes that character relatable. You know?
Totally, and it's definitely something that you recognize and remember about
absolutely.
that character. It makes them stand out. Like those little nuanced additions really make a character pop.
I love that stuff.
Yeah,
man. That's like a turn on for me.
So you mentioned Benicio del Toro. I want to talk about some more of your inspirations. What are some other actors or performers who like that you aspire to not be like, but in your journey through acting, be like that? I want to do that.
I mean, I love a lot of people for different reasons. I was really fascinated by Clark Gable. Back in the day, my mother was a huge, like, she loves classic cinema, and, you know, I remember watching Gone with the Wind, which I watched a bunch of times. And Clark Gable's a man, like, that dude's a man, right? He's like big, tall, and, you know, talks like this. And I was fascinated to learn that he has a naturally high voice.
Wow.
And in order to work within the studio system, he had to work on his voice. And with the coach, he had to learn how to bring it down here. And I thought that was fantastic, because I was like, oh, so no one's perfect. You have to work at it. And so I can work at it, maybe, and perfect this craft and this thing. He's one. Marlon Brando is obviously, you know, the god of many actors. James Dean was important because he threw himself into every role, which is something I try to do. Daniel Day-Lewis is also the GOAT. I love how Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't have to do a project every year, and he's the greatest. It's like he does something when it means something to him, and that taught me a lot, that money isn't everything. That money, you know, it's about really feeling connected to a role and to a part. Edward Norton, he's so smart, and he just brings that intelligence, like American History X. He's like a Nazi skinhead, but he's smart, and he's wicked smart, and that's Ed Norton, you know? I mean, there are many. Tom Hardy, I love his intensity. Leonardo DiCaprio, he just always seems to be so focused in every role. Tom Cruise has this laser focus. Paul Newman is just so natural and funny. I love him in The Color of Money, which is a great movie, another movie you should all watch if you. I mean, obviously I love movies, so I can talk about this all day long. But yeah, I have a lot of influences that I just sort of, and then I think the hard part is finding yourself in all of that, right?
Yeah, and you know, trying to take the best pieces of all the other things and trying to mold them into who you want to be, and like, but also remain genuine to yourself.
Yeah.
Not trying to do a mimic act or an impersonation of these people, but just take those pieces and say, I'm going to add these to my toolkit.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to trust yourself. It's tough to know that you're enough, man. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the times it's like you just got to bring yourself to the party. And I think that that's what I've really learned as it's going on, and I'm still learning, is that a lot of times we stop ourselves from like wanting that next job or thinking like this is something I really want to do, but I'll settle for this. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's fear. You think that you can't do it,
right?
You know, and it's really, man, that stuff is so not true.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I've just been learning about.
And how do you use that when it comes to auditioning? Because of course auditioning is a very tedious and arduous endeavor, and a lot of people let it affect them. And you know, when you're a young actor, you can go on all the auditions and hear no a million times, and some people get affected by that. How do you persevere through all of that to, you know, the trajectory that you're on in your career to be successful?
You know, it still hurts. It's funny.
It always hurts, yeah.
We're human. Yeah, earlier on, you know what I think? I think what happened to me as a kid, man, I had so much pain in my life. You know, my dad left when I was 12, and that was the thing. And he was a hard man. He was, you know, a cop, gang cop for 30 years, and a Marine for 30 years. So I had that, and when he left, and we're good now, we're great, you know. But I had a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, and because of that, like a lot of rejection, I was carrying a lot of stuff, and you know, what I found was like, by the time I got to acting, like it's embarrassing and it's vulnerable and you're doing a lot of things and you're throwing yourself out there, but I became like Jim Carrey in a sense, like where you're like, okay, you're telling me no, but there's a chance. You know, like I became that guy. Nice. You're like, well, there's a chance, man. Like, what if I made it? What if I did it? And I approached a lot of my auditions like that what if, like, yeah, I'll never book this movie, but what if?
Yeah.
And then the more now for me, I feel I've given up a lot of that anxiety of, am I going to work, am I not going to work? I feel like God's going to put me in the place where He wants me to be, and I think that you just got to do that. There's so much that's not in my control. Mm-hmm. You know, like a lot of times you guys watch a movie, and I've said this to some of you that have come to the table, and we've talked about movies and stuff, and I've said, like, sometimes, a lot of times, you're like, who you're watching wasn't the first choice of the actor. Like, they have a list of actors that they want, and like, the first person is filled for 3 years. You know, the next one, you know, will work, but they want back-end points, and they want cast approval and creative control. Like, nope, see ya. And then the next one is like, well, they kind of like it, and can you change the script? And you're like, no. And then the fourth one is just like, yeah, they love it, and they're great. Yeah. And then you see the movie, and you're like, wow, they were the star. No, they weren't, but it just fell like that. So I just try to put my best foot forward, and I try not to take it personally. Business is business, and I feel good in that sense. That's just, I'm gonna give my interpretation. And honestly, would you want to do a project or be a part of anything if they didn't want your interpretation?
Oh, absolutely not. I just
probably not. I'd be a talking monkey. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't need me for that. Mm-hmm. So that's how I approach it. But it's still like, there's some that you obviously want,
right?
And you don't get it, and you're like, oh God, I don't get it.
Yeah. You know? Do you remember? Do you recall the first, like, okay, you're on your way, you're doing auditions, you're booking things here and there. Do you remember the first real gig that you booked where you were like, wow, this is happening for me? Like, do you have a role that stands out to you that was like, I'm making it. My dream is finally coming true?
Going back, you know, I think for me, and it's funny because it was a smaller project, but I started acting, and modeling took off for me first. That was purely by accident. I was roommates with Chad Michael Murray, who was like in a lot of stuff. And we were with the same management team. And he already had an LA, he was a model at that time trying to be an actor. And I was just an actor. And I literally walked into it, and I ended up booking the Tommy Hilfiger fragrance campaign, the Tommy Girl campaign, so I did that. And then that led to Aaron Spelling wanting to hire me for shows, and things started happening. And it's not that I didn't appreciate it, but I think in my youth, I just had this idea that work was gonna come. And then I did a movie called The Burning Plane with Jennifer Lawrence and Charlize Theron, which is a fantastic movie. It didn't really get its due. But then nothing happened. And so I went a couple of years without working. And at that time, I was like, you know, maybe I've looked at life wrong. I thought it was this, and maybe that was the run. So let me go to college. I never went to college, so let me go to junior college, and I did. And math was my thing, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get my degree in math. And it was my mom, actually, after my first semester. I was like, look, Mom, I'm in these 5 math classes, and I'm eligible for this program, and they want me to do this advanced stuff, and 99.5 GPA, and she's like, but you're an actor. And which really shocked me, and she just encouraged me to just go do it again. And then I did, and I called up my agent. I said, okay, I'm ready to get back into this. And forget about the size of the role, just a line. Like, let me just get on set again. And so I booked CSI New York, and it was a guest star. And it was like all about my character in a way. You know how those shows work, like you're the suspect.
Yeah.
Did you do it, did you not do it? And I'm sitting on the roof in downtown, I'm standing on the roof in downtown LA. It's like 3 in the morning, and I'm holding this gun, and I have to do like this crying scene, and the camera's right there. And the whole time I'm wondering, like how are you gonna do that? That's tough. That is tough. Like, you're cold, you know, you're tired.
Yeah.
And now you have to cry when they're like, everyone's talking and everything, and they're doing all this stuff. And they're like, okay, ready, and it's like, then you gotta like get into it, you know? And I was wondering how I was gonna do it, and then they said, action. And I just like locked in, and I did it. And while I was doing it, I was like, oh my God, I'm an actor. Like, I do this.
That's awesome.
And like, I'm not just doing this, but I'm good at this. And that was the first time that I felt like I was good.
Yeah.
You know, and then as soon as that was done, it was like, oh man, then Twilight happened, then Snitch happened. It was just like bing, 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 and then I did Mayans. And Mayans, I was just able to really grow. I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready for Mayans.
That's really awesome, man. And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you. So, you know, you had the chance to be Easy in Mayans, and then also you were Nawel in Twilight. What do you get recognized for more, the bike or the bite?
I don't know. I think it's been more Mayans. I think it really resonated with people, and especially the Latino community, because it was finally something that was like an all Latino cast and something that they could relate to, you know. And I never really looked at acting like that, you know. Like I'm pure Latino, and you know, I'm first born in LA, first generation in America, and so much of it is just like trying to survive. You see your parents trying to survive.
Yeah.
So they want you to go to school, they want you to do good things, and so when I got into the business, like everybody's for themselves. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, I'm an actor. I'm trying to act, you know. And I didn't really care about representing a community. Like, I'm representing myself.
Right.
You know? But then I did Mayans. And a lot of the community that started coming up to me and just seeing how much it meant to them. I was like, wow, I may not have thought like this, but it is a responsibility that I need to be aware of, and it's a part of what it is, you know? So it became powerful in that sense,
of course,
you know, where I finally got to do something that was relatable for the community, and just to hear other Latinos be like, hey man, like, you think I could be an actor, or like this, it's like, yeah, you know, and that's cool, like that's great, because the arts saved me.
Yeah, it's great to see our people get represented on screen in that way. And like you said, having an all Latino cast, it's really amazing just for, like you said, for our community. I'm Puerto Rican, so like to see a Latino show and to see it thrive for as well as it did. Again, it's just wonderful to see the representation in media.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely crushed it, and you got to work with. And I introduced myself backstage. My name is Elgin. And you got to work with Elgin.
I was going to say something when you're like, my name is Elgin. I was like, in my head,
I don't know how many Elgins you meet.
You're the second Elgin I know.
That's awesome.
I don't know many Elgins.
I don't know any other Elgins, to be honest with you. It's an odd name. But you got to work with Elgin on the show.
Yeah.
And what was it like collaborating with him and like sharing your insights with each other? Was it a collaborative effort, or was he more like stick to the script?
Elgin's pure collaborative, man. And the one thing that we really wanted to focus on with Mayans was just the prison side of it. And I said that to some of the people that have come to the table, but we felt like so many characters on TV would just go to prison and come out like it's nothing. Like even Sons, like it's like a thing. You go in, you go out.
Yeah.
But as I started to research it, before we started shooting, and I started watching these shows like this, like Discovery, like documentaries about people that go inside. Man, it's really horrible. It's horrible. You don't come out the same.
There's no way you can come out the same.
You can't.
How could you?
You can't, you know? And I wanted, in my head, I was like, I'm doing the show for those people. And so I wanted to show like the struggle, you know, of like trying to get a job, or how people look at you, having relationships, the trauma, always feeling like you're about to fight. You know, but then you can't because you don't want to go back inside. You know, and it's part of a reason why like Easy had to join the club. You know, too, because like that's kind of all you got. You know, when you're marked like that. And so Elgin's a real dude. He served time, and it's a part of his story. And so we talked a lot about that, and you learn the difference between like who's really bad and who's not.
Right.
You know, like we just like no, like if dudes are there barking, you know, or trying to flaunt their stuff, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, but the ones who are like looking at you and quiet,
the quiet ones are the ones you worry about. Yeah.
You know,
for sure. What do they say? Like the all bark and no bite.
Yeah, man. It's a different level. You know, and you know, I'll tell you like, so when I was doing this movie Snitch with The Rock. There were two characters. One was John Bernthal, and then there was Rock. And I was doing the scene with him, and we had a tech advisor with us. And my character is just supposed to be staring at one dude. And so immediately I'm staring at The Rock, because this dude's big. You know, I need to make sure like I see this guy coming. You know, he's dangerous. And the tech, who was like a war hero, like Green Beret, he's like, no. You look at this other guy. And I was like, why? He's like, because he went to prison. And he's like, if there's a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being like the horrible thing that you could do to get yourself in there, you've already been there. And most people in a confrontation, even if they're fighting or whatever, won't go to 10. They'll have something in them that stops it, or pulls away. But once you cross, like you know you can go there. So I know you can go there. So I need to keep an eye on you, because that's dangerous. So
you don't want to mess with that.
It's interesting all the things you learn, you know, about people.
Yeah, it's really cool, and you know, you get to learn a lot from the people you get to collaborate with. You know, whether it be Elgin or Robert Rodriguez or. What was your experience like working with him?
Dude, Robert Rodriguez is a genius, man. That guy. So I show up, and as soon as I show up on set, he's already filming with Ben. Ben Affleck was in it, and and they were just like, they're like, he's in a shot, and then we're gonna break for lunch. So just wait here because he wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And I'm just standing there. I just finished wardrobe. And then he comes out. He's like, JD. And I was like, hey. He's like, dude, thank you so much for doing this. Like, thank you. You know, like, you're amazing.
Yeah.
And he's like, come to my office. And we go to his office and we're eating. And he's like, let me show you what we're shooting. And he starts showing me all the cuts. And he's like, look at this and look at that. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. And I was like, wait a minute, how did you do that? And he's literally laughing about this edit that he did. Like, he's so giddy about it. And I was like, that's so cool. How'd you do that? And he's like, well, I'm an editor. I started off editing. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And he's like, look at this other project I did. And he starts showing, like, I'm going through film school, you know, with this guy. And it was really cool. Like, he's that kind of guy. He films the way he's gonna cut, which is very different.
Yeah. But that's amazing to know that you can be able to do that. But I guess it's easier when you have control of the edit.
Yeah, when you have control of that. But when I directed on my ends, I use that because I love that. I love what he did.
Yeah.
You know?
And did Elgin, was he there to assist you when you directed, or was he just like, it's all yours?
No, so I think, you know, naturally everyone's like, this actor is going to direct, you know. But he, you know, and I had the writer with me, and we would share a lot of frames that, you know, these frames are like the images of the screen that you want to show for the story, the setups. And so I had done so much work on what I wanted, and I knew the theme that I wanted for me and my connection to this episode and how I was gonna direct it. I feel for me like directing is a lot like music. I relate to music a lot. And I wanted it to be like a track on the Mayans album. And so I told Elgin all my ideas, and then he showed up, and like the first setup, and he was there sitting with me, like behind me, and I see him. And here I am with like my video village, and I'm like, cut, action, okay, great, I'll do this, I'll do that. And I look back and he's gone. And I was like, oh man, did I piss him off?
Yeah.
What? But like the day is moving, so I'm just going throughout the day. And then I go home, and it's like, you know, I'd be there like 3:30 in the morning. I'm home by like 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m., preparing for the next morning. And I got this beautiful voicemail from Elgin. He's just like, dude, I left because you don't need me.
That's awesome.
And I was like, ah.
That's such an amazing moment.
Yeah.
That was such vindication. Such like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for a better.
Because the last thing I wanted to do was let him down.
Yeah, of course,
You
yeah.
know?
That's his baby.
That's his baby, man. So I was like, I wanted to feel like people are watching something you directed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really cool. That you even got the opportunity to do that.
Oh yeah.
Was it something you asked for, or was presented to you? Like.
No, he asked me.
That's so cool.
I think, you know, always I'm fascinated by this business. I love acting. I love cinema. And so every job that I have, I'm like, you know, lingering by camera. I'm like, so when they say like a 50, what does that mean? And you know, more often than not, when you ask people questions, they're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
So I ask questions. I've been that way my whole life. Like, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I do that, you know? Even when I started Mayans and I didn't have the money yet, like my daughter was just born, I had this mortgage now, and they were like, you need to beef up. So I was like, okay. And I'm like going to like reading magazines, like muscle magazines, like how to do this and how to do that.
Yeah, I heard you gained like 30 pounds.
Oh dude, it was insane.
Yeah.
10 months of just eating and lifting.
Wow.
And you know, I see trainers at gyms with other people, and I just kind of think, like, hey man, like if I'm trying to do this, what did I do? What do I do? And they're like, oh man, just grab that bar and go do this. Okay, cool. So it's like, man, I talk to people, ask them.
Yeah.
What are they gonna say? No or get away from me? Fine, okay. But
you wouldn't know if you didn't ask.
But you don't know, yeah.
You
and so, you know, I'm used to rejection. So go ahead and reject me and say that I can't, you know, no, get away from me. But I've always lingered around the camera. I've always talked to people. I love talking to people, and I got that from Daniel Day-Lewis. because I on the burning plane, the crew had their P.T. Anderson's crew, and they had just done their Will Be Blood, and they were like, I was like, what's it like working with Daniel Day-Lewis? Like, is he really like that method? They're like, yeah, he is. Like, wow. And they go, but when they say cut and you go back to the hotel, he talks with everybody. He's mingling with the people. And they're like, we asked him one time, like, why do you do that? And he's like, because that's fuel. Like, acting is about humanity.
Yeah.
And so if you close yourself off to it, you know, you're going to close yourself off as an actor. So I've always done that. And I think it was around season 3. We were shooting the scene on the beach with the character Gabby before I killed her. And I'm staring at this scene, I'm watching him set up, and he's standing next to me, and Elgin just goes, dude, do you want to direct? And I was like, I mean, yeah, it's been a thing, it's like been in my heart, but he's like, why don't you direct next season? And I was like, well, now that I know that you want me to direct, how about next season I just watch and study everybody, and then if you still feel the same, I'll direct season 5. So that's what I did.
That's awesome.
You know, I really wanted to do it right. So then now I'm really watching the camera. I'm watching the setups. I'm watching the time. I'm watching the AD say, hey, you got 30 minutes, you know. I'm watching the actors and how they all work, you know. So it was cool.
And that voicemail was the validation you needed.
Oh, man.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Good on you, man. That's what's up.
Thank you.
All right, we have some time for some crowd questions. I think we should definitely take the time to talk to them.
Absolutely, whatever they want to know.
Come on up to the mic and just ask your question.
I was an actor, so.
Thank you so much. Is that your question?
No, I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, with East Los is probably one of my favorite projects because I met for it, and I was meeting with the producers, and they were like, they sent me all the scripts, and they were like, what's your idea for this character? And I started telling them, and I was like, you know, people, they stereotype gangbangers, you know, and I really wanted to create somebody different, and they really liked it. And then I remember my first scene, we were shooting it, and I was saying the lines, and then the director, who was the showrunner, comes up to me and he goes, hey, you don't have to say these lines, like say whatever you want now. And he's like, because I can see it in your eyes, like you're already doing it, so whatever you want to say, say. And that was like the first time out of everything that I had freedom like that, you know, to just be and try and explore. And then I ended up getting nominated for an Emmy for it. And so it was like one of my favorite projects. So.
Well, it's one of my favorite shows, so
Thank
it's
you.
awesome. Glad
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Holly.
Hey, Holly.
So I picked a question from like my big list of questions. Do you think that Angel ever found out that Miguel was y'all's brothers?
That's a good question. I think Angel put it together, but I don't know, because he was pretty stupid. I mean, that character was pretty dumb. No, I'm just kidding. I think he put it together. I think Angel put it together that Miguel was our brother. That would have been fun to explore too. You know, I love Danny Pino. He's such a good guy, good actor. But I think he knew. What do you think?
I think he figured it out too.
Yeah.
I agree, he was pretty stupid. I think he figured it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Diana, again.
Hi, Diana.
We're not stalking you.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes,
This guy.
This guy.
Started trouble. All good.
First of all, I wanted to say you're an extremely relatable, normal person. I've never met a celebrity. He's the one who's always meeting people. And he said that his favorite person that he met was, oh, okay, well, I forgot his, oh gosh. I know that one of my coworkers said that I have a big girl personality even though I'm so short. So I guess
It's all good.
So when you said that in Hollywood people are out for themselves, And I started to think, what, does he work where I work? What's going on here? Because unfortunately, working in corporate and working where I am right now, it's all about you. And when you said, it's a responsibility, because being Latino and things like that, that I have to now represent and think of others and how everybody's relating to me. So I thought that was very, very human of you. And then my question goes to, how was it working at Roadhouse? Because when we saw it, first of all, we were kind of like, oh, they're remaking Roadhouse. I don't know, Patrick Swayze was amazing. Because the running joke in that, well, I thought you were bigger. And so that was like the I was like, oh, I thought you were bigger. I am Dallas. And I was like, oh, I thought you were bigger. Yeah. And so how was it with you in the new remake? And I thought
it was pretty much open to whatever I wanted to do. And I love that, it's scary. But so he was like, what would be a good thing? He's like, type in your birthday and then Florida man.
Yeah, I'm from Florida, I'm sorry.
So you get it. So then I typed in my birthday and Florida man, and I was like, oh my God, some of these things that these people do, what the hell, is that? That was the first time I got exposed to that. And I saw some pictures and these dudes, and I was like, oh man, bad bleached hair jobs and weird tattoos, and I was like, I'll do that, I'll look like that, and then I'm just gonna be a bully, but who's stupid, and then I just showed up just doing that, and they all loved it, and the director loved it, and he even during we were doing that fight scene, and he goes, JD, you're great. So I figured now, why don't we stop the fight in the middle of it, and then you guys have an exchange, and then start the fight again. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. What do you want me to say? He's like, oh, you're great, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, oh my God. So now we're all talking, and I was like, wait a minute. What if you're let's call it a draw. And I'm like, what's a draw? I don't know what a draw is. Does that mean I win? And they're like, that means we all win, Del. It was just so fun. It was really great. It was a good project to do in between Mayans, because Mayans was so heavy, that it was just nice to just play and be reminded of that. So I loved it. Thank you.
That was a fun movie to watch.
That was a great one, yeah.
How you doing? What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, I'm Dan.
Hey, Dan.
I'm just wondering what type of, what was your workouts for Roadhouse and diet? And how was, did you train with Jake Gyllenhaal at all?
No, Jake has his own doctors and team, and had a masseuse and everybody that he's getting rid of, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy's got to carry the movie. It depends on what you want to do with your body. And this is a beautiful thing. You have to know yourself. You have to know your body, and you got to be honest with yourself. So for me, I'm what you would call a hard gainer. I'm naturally lean. And I burn a lot of calories naturally. So in order to put on muscle, I have to triple the amount of my calorie intake. So for Mayans, I was doing 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day. And that was just eating, and then protein shakes, and lifting. If you want to get bigger, you want your muscles to grow, you got to tear them. And in order to do that, you have to lift heavy. And by lunchtime, when and the nutritionist was like, you're gonna hate your life for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're gonna hate it. And I was like, no, are you kidding me? This is gonna be awesome. And sure enough, I was miserable. By lunchtime, I was stuffed for the day. And then my wife would, make me some food, and there's 2 big old sweet potatoes, there's an 8-ounce steak, and there's a cup of spinach. And I'm like, I can't eat it anymore. She's like, do it for our family, eat. So I'm like, okay. I'm forcing, slowly chewing everything. But here's the interesting thing about your body, because your body is saying wait a minute, no, Dan, we're this way. So we're not gonna do this. you keep pushing through, you'll break through that barrier. And that's what happened to me. Like, I broke through, and they were right. It just took 2-3 weeks. Once I broke through it, I couldn't stop eating. And now I'm doing 2 workouts a day and just lift. But I was spiritually motivated. And I think that's the difference for a lot of people, is you have to be connected emotionally and spiritually to what you're doing. Because your body's gonna tell you no. Or like if you wanna lose weight, right? If you're like, well, I look at a donut and I get big. Like, I have friends who are like that. I have friends who have to do an hour of cardio before they even lift because they just look at food or think about food, they start getting bigger, right? So you have to recognize your body and understand what your body naturally does, and then you go against that. So it's like if you want to lose weight and you want to get more shredded, well, now you got to do cardio. You got to really up your cardio. You got to just stick to proteins, and then around afternoonish, stop with the carbs and just get into good, like, vegetables, eating good vegetables, drinking a lot of water, and you will start, and then at around 3 weeks, even if you commit to that, all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm trying to lose weight and now I'm putting on weight again. How is this happening, right? You gotta just keep going forward and break through. So I like to transform for every role.
Yeah.
And so that was my thing for Mayans.
Awesome. Quick question. What was your favorite Tom Cruise movie?
My favorite Tom Cruise movie?
Yeah.
I gotta say The Color of Money. I love Top Gun.
That's a good one.
But The Color of Money, if you guys haven't seen it, he's a pool player and he's just raw Tom Cruise. I think it's fantastic. Thanks, Dan.